Today we travel to the city of Auschwitz. Now that might not sound like much to you, but in German it said Auschwitz. And yes, I said the city. A lot of people don't realize that Auschwitz was a city, but it's also home to one of the most evil places on earth, the Auschwitz death camps. I'm traveling there because we're nearing the 80th anniversary since its liberation. And I think that it's very important, whilst there are still people that have living memories of this place, to share with you the atrocities that took place there, the evilness, so we must never forget. But also to maybe realize how sometimes a bunch of idiots with the most ridiculous of ideologies can really cause havoc and create evil. And I think right now, as the world is going through some serious changes, it might be appropriate to take a page out of history and learn from it. Let's go to Auschwitz. We've just set out. There are many ways to get to Auschwitz from the center of Krakow. A lot of organized tours. If you don't join an organized tour, be sure to go online and book your ticket. Although when you get there, you're going to have to join a tour. But I personally wanted to travel there by train because I think it's just appropriate for this visit and just get a clearer idea of what the journey would have looked like. We are at Auschwitz, and today we're going to discover. Let's go. I've literally just entered the first camp, which I want a guided tour, but I don't really do those things. Now the first camp, the Auschwitz one, originally military barracks for Polish soldiers, and after Poland was invaded, the Germans decided, yep, this'll do. We'll turn this into a concentration camp. If you noticed, at the entrance of the camp there was a sign that said Arbeit macht frei. Take a look at how extensive this network is. It was placed right here. Look at that. From Oslo down to Greece. From Belarus to Brussels. It's massive. Ashes of the victims. Just been told in this next section, no filming, but I'll let you know on the other side what was there. Guys just came out of the room that we couldn't film in, and that's because there's physical remains there. There's hair, 20 tons of it. If you can imagine how much hair weighs, it weighs nothing. So to accumulate 20 tons, it's like, I mean, it's a truckload. They used it for mattresses, for pillows, for garments. They used to take the teeth, the gold teeth, after the extermination, pull out the teeth. There's special people doing that, melt down the gold to create this gold bullion that was obviously sent then to Germany. And even the skin, apparently the skin was used to make lampshades. It's mad. 1.3 million people died here. 1.1 million Jews and 200,000, a mix of Poles, Roma Gypsies, Soviets. In there, see all sorts of stuff. Fake limbs, prosthetics, crutches, shoes, a huge amount of shoes, and that's nothing compared to what they actually collected. Baby shoes, this big, luggage with names on it, cutlery, kitchen utensils. People actually thought they were going home. They were coming here to work and they were going home. And for the vast majority, that never happened. But the thing is, from what I just heard in there, is that 20% of the people that died here, 20%, children and babies. That is unthinkable. Right here, we're approaching Block 11, also known as the Death Block. Now, a lot of you may have heard that the way they exterminated the Jews in this camp, or in the second one rather, was through gassing. And at the time, they used Cyclone B to exterminate rats and, basically vermin. They decided to test it and see if it would work on humans. And the testings they did for Cyclone B was right here in this building. They took several hundred prisoners, Polish, Soviet, and they wanted to see if it would work and what quantities would be necessary in order to achieve the result. And they put the people in the room and released these crystals that emit this gas. And after 24 hours, some people were still not dead. Can you imagine? 24 hours. So they decided to double the dose, and they came back 24 hours later, and obviously everyone by then was dead. But can you imagine what a horrendous death? 48 hours. I'm entering this hellhole. The officer's room, it's all original, and if you can see in the back over there, the main guy responsible for all this crap is still up there, holding cell. Look at this, guys. Back from down there, an absolute horror of a place. Different cells for different types of torture. You had the starvation cell, the suffocation cell. I mean, this place was designed for killing. This is, once again, we're back in the death block, so Block 11, and look at the weather out there. Right behind me over there is where the executions took place, right between cell Block 10 and Block 11. And I just heard the most horrendous story that if you were part of the resistance, any Pole that was part of the resistance, the whole family would be executed. There was a story that I was just told. It's just unthinkable. Family, husband, wife, 3 kids. The mother's holding the baby. The kids are in between the two. They come, shoot the baby. Then they shoot one kid, then the other, then the mother, then the father, so as they can sit there and witness this. I specifically chose to come here during the winter because I figured if you're going to come here in the spring and everything else, I think you want to try and experience, although it's probably impossible, I really wanted to see what it would be like in the worst of conditions to actually be here. As you can see, they're very well built because this was all military barracks, and then when the Germans invaded, they literally took over this place and turned it into a concentration camp, which was a turnkey solution for them basically. And it housed, this part of Auschwitz housed, you know, political prisoners, homosexuals, influential people, academics that, you know, didn't have the or didn't follow the rules, let's put it this way. Even if you possessed a radio or listened to unprescribed information that the government didn't want you to listen to, you were sent here. Jehovah's Witnesses even, priests, it's unbelievable. And then later they built the second part, which is Auschwitz-Birkenau, which we'll be heading to later. But guys, this is just absolute madness. So this began as a concentration camp back in 1940. It didn't become an extermination camp until 1942. In January 20th, I think it was, of 1942, is when the Germans had a meeting, the Nazis had a meeting in Berlin and decided that they were going to exterminate all the Jews. Their estimate was 11 million people, 11 million Jews were to be exterminated. They succeeded, unfortunately, with 6 million of them. So I'm just heading into the other section. As you can see, this is fenced in, whereas this is fenced out. And obviously this would have been where the officers and the likes would have lived. Apparently they had proper medical facilities here with real doctors. You know, one of the worst things that could happen to you in this place. Silent in there, but that is like horrific. Thousands of people were exterminated in there, cremated, and you could see just by the equipment that, you know, this was like serious business. Well, we're leaving Auschwitz I, and at the entrance, if you recall, it said Arbeit macht frei, which means work will set you free. Well, I'm sure they worked and they weren't set free, so. So, as I said before, Auschwitz is divided into two sections. You have Auschwitz I and Auschwitz II, which is Auschwitz-Birkenau, which was built later, and that, can you imagine, is even more horrific than this. So I've just entered Auschwitz II, Auschwitz-Birkenau. Now this place was purposefully built as a death camp. It was never labeled as a concentration camp. And it's f***ing massive. This was industrial level killing. Picked the right weather, didn't I? I don't know if you can see in the distance over there, the woods. It goes as far as there. And this place was never actually finished. They had plans to extend it into the woods. Harsh weather, but it gives a better sense of, I mean, I can only imagine people, inmates here, that didn't have the luxury of wearing a down jacket, gloves. Yeah, I can't wear a hat, but I mean, striped pajamas. Sick, guys. Absolutely sick. This here's been sealed off because of the weather. But if I've come all the way to Auschwitz, then it's to actually see. Right here are the train tracks that would have brought the Jews from all over Europe, as we saw earlier, from Oslo down to Greece and from Brussels to Belarus. And they would pull in here, right here where I'm stood, is where the selection process would take place, and there would be an SS officer and I guess a doctor, if you could call it that, and solely based upon appearance they would select people. First of all, children, mothers, disabled to one side, men to the other, and then based upon the appearance the doctor would say, fit for work, you go in that direction, unfit for work, this side. And those people usually met their fate. And then right here the trains would separate, and the people that were not fit for work would be sent in that direction, often told that they're going for a washout and some food, and after a long journey, and they would walk along this path, and it's closed today, unfortunately. And I tell you, it's a long way, guys. Take a look. Oh. It's a long way down. Mothers with their children, old people head in that direction to the gas chambers. And it's a shame it's not open, because I would have taken the walk. You know, when you experience something like this, it really puts it into perspective. And the wind, it cuts. I'm not going to talk much now, and because the wind's blowing in, but it's a 1 kilometer walk, and I'm determined to make this walk and back. It's a lot of snow. Oh, now that the wind's died down a bit, guys, you know, the Hungarian Jews, close to 500,000 of them, they weren't sent here up until the very end of the war, June of 1944. 420,000 of them exterminated, 70% of them exterminated in less than 2 months, in 56 days. How crazy is that? 56 days to kill close to 400,000 people. You can see that they obviously tried to cover up their tracks through dynamite, blew it all up before they left, because so they knew they were losing the war with the Soviets coming in from the east, the Allied forces from the west, yet they still killed as many people as humanly possible. And I must say, this must be as humanly possible. This is, again, industrial level killing. It's madness. This is how they lived. These beds, 3 levels, 4 guys, 4 guys, 4 guys, 4 guys, 4 down there on the brick. A block like this would house about 700 to 1,000 people. That's madness. Their food was a vegetable soup at lunch made of rotten vegetables, slice of bread for dinner, and that was it. That's why the doctors estimated that your average prisoner would have a life expectancy of a maximum of 6 months. Most of them only lived between 3 to 6 months. Yeah, they dehumanized them. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But it's cold in here. It's freezing. The average prisoner weighed between 25 to 35 kilograms. These are adult men, 1,000 people. I mean, watch this. From one end to the other, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. These are 10 meters by, let's say, 5, 30, maximum of 300 to 400 square meters. You'd fit 700 to 1,000 people. It's like 2 people per square meter. And obviously they say the people that had the misfortune of being on the top were in a better position than the people at the bottom, obviously. I mean, to sleep on stone like this in the freezing cold, you can imagine. Try sleep. I mean, it's freezing right now. I wouldn't sit on there right now. And they would get 1 blanket per level, not per person. This is it. Those steps over there in the distance would have been where the people came down for the promise of a shower and a clean-up after a long trek. They would hook their clothes in a changing room. They would be given a bar of soap and they would enter a room that had shower heads in them right here. And then they'd get locked in, and from above some SS guards would drop Cyclone B, and as many as 2,000 people in one shower room or gas chamber would meet their death. Said from the Sonderkommanders that you could hear people clawing along the walls, and some of the stories are just atrocious. I mean, these men were given the task of cleanup afterwards and carrying those bodies out of the gas chambers and straight into the furnaces that worked 24 hours a day. People worked literally 7 days a week, 12-hour shifts from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and after 1 week they'd move to the night shift, so you had to be strong to do this. And even though it sounded like a horrible thing to do, they were victims. They had no choice. It was that or get killed. And they would literally cremate these people 24 hours a day. And I tell you, it's hard to imagine killing on such scale. And now, guys, I have a hell of a long walk back. I tell you, this right here is the product of a crazy, evil ideology with basically crazy people that want to enforce and impose this ideology on the rest of the world. As I leave Auschwitz now, it makes me think, this is not a time to be silent. This is not a time to be passive. If you're seeing things you don't like, things you don't appreciate, things you disagree with, it's time to share those things. The world is changing, you know. Elon Musk has literally given free speech on X once again. I think Mark Zuckerberg just the other day said that he was going to do exactly the same thing. So there are places, there are platforms where this can be done, and I think it's our duty, hence this movie today. On the 27th of this month is the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the camp by the Soviets. 27th of January 1945. The wind's picking up again. I've got a long walk back. As I leave this place, I want to share a message with you that if you feel like doing something, go out there and do it. You know why? Because you can. Because you can. If you enjoyed this video, I did one last year about the uprising in Warsaw, also here in Poland. Check it out. And remember, guys, enjoy your journey.